Hi! I wanted to make this video talking about Martin Luther King Day, which is tomorrow. Martin Luther King Day is clearly a day where people celebrate Martin Luther King's legacy, about social justice, African American and people of color's rights, and also the memes. We all know the memes. The memes that say Martin Luther King did not die for this, the memes that use respectability politics to silence us, and as well as that, they use Martin Luther King to try to silence our voices by saying, oh, you should not be disrespectful, you shouldn't yell, you shouldn't cuss to get your point across, you should just be nice, you should educate ignorance, you shouldn't shun people away, you shouldn't just say shut the fuck up and get out of here when people are being ignorant, you should just love people and be peaceful and just tolerate abuse and ignorance. You should kill people with kindness. That's what people are going to say tomorrow. And frankly, I think all of that is bullshit. I think that in order to get your point across, you should educate people the way you want them to be educated. If it means yelling at them, if it means cussing at them, fine. If they don't get it, that's their problem. They don't need to be sugar coated, or they don't need to be coddled or told that, oh, be nice, because you can be nice and people still won't get it. I've tried to be nice to people. I've tried to be nice to my old roommates about why we can't have a fucking white student union, and they were still like, oh, but that's not fair. Bitch, I was fucking nice about it. Now I'm gonna be a bitch about it because you want to try to use me and try to take advantage of me. So now I'm not gonna be fucking nice because you just don't get it. And that's the point. But people want to use Martin Luther King as this peaceful person that never stood up for himself, that was somehow a pacifist. And honestly, Martin Luther King was strategic. He used nonviolence to prevent more lives from being taken, more brown lives, more black lives. He did not want any more deaths. That's why he was like, okay, let's be nonviolent so people won't kill us. Let's protect ourselves. Let's not be so aggressive, but so we can stay alive. He wasn't someone that was like, hey, we should just be silent and everything will be okay. They wanted to protest in a way that did not get themselves killed. That was the point. Martin Luther King was like, hey, I see so many people getting shot and killed in the streets for protesting. Maybe we should try something different. Maybe we should be peaceful and be nonviolent so we can save our lives. Fuck the other people's lives, fuck the police, but let's make sure that we don't get killed. Let's not do anything where people can say, oh, well, they were throwing stones and they were fighting back, so that's why they got killed. And even though I don't agree with that, that was basically what Martin Luther King was thinking. He wasn't like, oh, fuck the rioters, fuck everyone who is cussing and trying to get their point across because they are sick of racism and segregation. Another thing are the posts about interracial dating. I hate those posts. I really do. And I don't have to say that I'm against interracial relationships because it's common sense to know that I am against people who believe that in order for racism to end, a white or non-black person must love a black person. You aren't praising the black person for being in an interracial relationship. You are praising the white or non-black person for loving the coon, for loving the nigger, for loving the darky. That's what you are praising the white or non-black person for. And I see right through it. So I'm going to say that interracial relationships do not solve racism because there has been interracial procreation for as long as, I don't know, the beginning of time, and there is still racism. you know Rapes, and you call that love. You call that love because a white person had sex with a black person, and it could be forcibly, or it could be because they wanted to experience the jungle fever or something like that. You think that's love and progress, and it's not everyone, but to use that as an example, and typically white women with black men, it's not for genuine reasons. To sit there and say Martin Luther King died so I can marry some white woman or so I can date some white girl, that's terrible. As a follower said, he said Martin Luther King died because he was murdered. That's why he died. He was murdered. He didn't die for your rights. He didn't die for anything. He died because he was murdered. Now, maybe he fought for your rights until the day that he died. That is true. But he died because he was murdered. He did not die because, oh, black men who don't like black women should date white women. Although Martin Luther King was a cheater, okay, but that's besides the point. But I had to say that because Martin Luther King had his own problems with Coretta Scott, but Martin Luther King was just about social justice, the rights for African Americans of all shades, of all genders. Martin Luther King wasn't someone that was like, okay, get out the street, don't be ghetto, don't be ratchet, don't sag your pants. Maybe he was in the past, but he changed his mindset. Just like Malcolm X realized, not every white person is bad, but some people are, and I'm still going to talk about those white people. And I feel a lot of people mistake what Malcolm X said in the end. He wasn't saying, oh, okay, white people are good after all. He was like, I used to have a prejudice towards white people. I used to think all white people were racist, but nah, just a few people are good and then most white people are bad. That's what he was thinking. Like, okay, some white people are good. I'm not going to say all, but I'm still going to be like, white privilege is a thing, light skin privilege is a thing, but it's not every white person. So Malcolm X and Martin Luther King had conflicting viewpoints, but they had similar goals, and that's why they ended up understanding each other. I think Martin Luther King and Malcolm X helped each other, helped evolve each other's mindsets and viewpoints, and I think that was very important. And each man has a place in our social justice hearts. But I also wanted to say that last night someone had posted a Facebook post or a picture of some white man with a biracial girl painting her toenails, and it was captioned, my father said that he wanted nothing to do with my daughter if I had her, and 3 years later he's painting her toenails. Everyone was like, oh, interracial relationships can make a difference. So I commented on it and said, no, this is a rare case. You can't just use this as an example to say, oh, racism is solved because some people are no longer racist like they used to, and he could still be racist. It's just the fact that it's his granddaughter, so he probably feels I can't really be hateful towards her. But as someone said, the daughter could be someone he tolerates, but he could hate her father. Although, it's funny how people assume that the father is black and the woman is white, because who could ever love a black woman and have a biracial child with her? But then again, I think the fact that the caption said my father, as in my white father, gave it away of the race of the parents. But still, I just find it annoying. But I was saying that interracial relationships do not solve racism. So one white person from high school who I've never really talked to before, all 4 years of high school, had a nerve to comment like, what's your point? And then he unfollowed me. I'm like, what was the point of you even commenting? And why the hell are you mad at me? Because I'm not praising you. I'm not praising whiteness for loving black people, because I'm not making a white person feel good about themselves because they date a white or they date a black person. And for people to get upset about that and to think that I'm taking away a beautiful moment, like my mom said, no, I'm just not naive enough to think, oh, racism is over because a white person loves a black person. And I also noticed this. Why are so many white women so apt to saying, my biracial daughter, my biracial son? They want to say biracial, and it's obvious that the child is half black. And for them to say, my biracial daughter, I understand she's biracial, but it's like people insist on saying biracial because they don't want to say my black child, my black son, my black daughter, no, she's biracial, she's two races, she's not black, which it's true. Self-identity is important, but at the same time, with social construction and all of this, we all know what the child will be perceived as. Now, if they want to identify as anything but black, that's their choice, which, fine. Just don't complain when we don't want you representing us in movies where you're a light skinned mixed person, but that's besides the point. But I just hate when it's white women that are like, yeah, my biracial daughter, because she's biracial, she's different from black people. Okay, but what is your father racist against? Biracial people or people who are black, whether they are quote unquote monoracial or biracial? So the daughter will be facing anti-blackness. Now, hopefully it doesn't happen, but just because your father suddenly wants to paint her toenails does not mean that he still doesn't hold any prejudices.